Good morning, everyone. Let's just give a moment to let people know that I'm live. That I am late going live this morning. Second day of school starting. The bus was later than it was scheduled, but we're going to get this thing together because as business owners, that's what we do. We work through, we persevere. That's what leaders do. We keep going through the problem, we don't stop at the problem. Good morning, everyone. My name is Luciana Turner. I am the founder of the LT&A Company. We are a government contracting, consulting, coaching, and training firm operating within the government space, seeking to provide consulting and coaching services around all things government contracting, all things compliance. I am your host, Luciana Turner, and welcome. As you come into the room, you know how we're taught. Just greet everybody. I want to be able to say welcome and acknowledge your presence. If you're catching this by the replay, hashtag replay so that I can acknowledge that you stepped by. I am live on my Instagram channel, the LT&A Consultant Group LLC, my Facebook personal page, my Facebook company page, LT&A Company, and my YouTube channel, the LT&A Contractors Conversation. So you can catch me live on either of those channels. The replays of the week's syndication are on Saturday and Sundays on the YouTube channel. So if you miss anything, that's okay. You can just hop on, subscribe to my YouTube, and you can catch anything that you missed there. So let's get started, shall we? So I just want to, today's Thursday, and yesterday wrapped up a 2-day seminar I was in discussing IT modernization within the Fed space. And there was the overemphasis on this zero trust going on in IT modernization. And I really, really found it interesting. Cybersecurity, we all knew cybersecurity was going to be the thing. However, after going through that, sitting through that training for the last 2 days, I really see how it's a really big thing. And I see now that small businesses are going to have to really look into their cybersecurity. I don't care what industry you're in. If you're looking to do any type of government business, you're going to have to look into your cybersecurity because foreign actor, domestic, we keep talking about foreign, but we have the homegrown specialists that are seeking to do malicious things. And they're not always terrorists. Some people are just after money. We have to look at that as well. Look at the people that are hacking the oil systems. And this is not a political platform going on politically. And we must be aware of there several big businesses have had their systems hacked and held hostage. So cybersecurity is going to be a big thing. Another thing that's really big, especially in Homeland Security, look for a lot of RFPs. They're also stating if you know anybody who's looking for employment versus contracts, and anybody who's looking to do personal services agreements, Homeland Security is going to be where anybody who is a data analyst is going to find a considerable amount of work over the next couple of years. As the approach of the modernization come in, the implementation of AI, which is artificial intelligence, data mining, data analysis is going to be key to stay at the forefront in industry as well as government. So if that is your specialty, if that is something that you have knowledge of but you have not decided to specialize in, You might want to consider adding that to your wheelhouse. If you know someone who has that specialization, you might want to consider that. Another thing that came up in conversation is modernization within healthcare, because their VA is doing a whole overhaul of its system. Finally, a lot of what has delayed the VA overhaul is bid protests, and as I talked about yesterday, there's going to be a whole streamlining of the bid protest system. But there's going to be innovation within healthcare. I do know that's been coming down the pike for a couple of years now. I would say 10 years ago, my company bid on this transformation contract that came out in a couple of states where they were trying to, everybody's aware of, health records going electronic. A lot of people aren't aware of where that trend is truly heading because, quite frankly, people are a lot more mobile than they used to be. Some people are actually becoming expats. They're deciding to work overseas more. They're, a lot more mobile with their jobs, and medical records and key information in those records have been lost. I know myself, part of my medical records are lost. They can't find them. One of my doctor's offices had a flood, and all of his records from that time period was destroyed in that flood. They managed to find one sheet of data on me from then. So this is what's leading that trend, or this is what's leading that. So, and, that's just me. Think about somebody with, severe health issues and pertinent records are lost. Now they have to go through all of that um, diagnosis and testing and all of that again. Whereas the modernization project that is currently ramping up again would alleviate that because the records would be digitized and you could, transfer the records in theory from provider to provider that operate on similar systems or systems that talk. You can also carry a QR code on your smartphone or Android. I'm team Android. I love my Samsung. Uh, and you can just scan that QR code in the next doctor's office, and voila, your records are there. So that will save time and energy for the patient because I don't know about nobody else, but some of these lab tests require 21 tubes of blood every month, every 3 months. And who wants to go through that again when you've already been through that? And not I. So the IT modernization that's going on within the VA is going to be great. Another thing that's going to go on is the departments to reduce redundancy and to increase efficiency. There's going to be a more of a system talking. Not that the systems or that departments are going to share contractors, but they're going to be more talking. So if DOD and people talk about Department of Defense like it's one monolith. Actually, Department of Defense is made up of several agencies that wrap up into Department of Defense. So you kind of have to be careful how you talk about them. But they are usually the more aggressive big dog in government contracting because their need is very urgent. So they typically are the ones that step out there more. The security agencies, CIA, NSA more than CIA. So you'll see DOD and NSA really leading the charge on a lot of things. NSA doesn't talk about their budget a lot. So you just see a lot of DOD as examples in the great atmosphere. With that said, you're going to see a lot more collaboration across agencies. So if Navy has a contract or a need. Army might have the same need. Well, instead of Army doing its own thing and Navy doing its own thing, they may tap into, if Army has already secured a contract, you may find Navy tapping into that contract. So you're going to see a lot more interagency collaboration on contracting and shared resources to reduce redundancy in contracting and to increase streamlining. You're going to see a lot more. I'm not going to say shared budgets because government doesn't share budgets, but to get around, government appropriations are slow. It's just how the government operates. It just is what it is. However, if I have a mill, you have a mill, and our needs is 2 mil, then we can combine my mill and your mill and go in together on a contract to get our needs done to get us through this year and then do the same thing next year. So with the modernization going on, we're going to see a lot more of that. So, just stay in the stay in the loop. We're going to keep an eye on what goes on with the modernization. And as I said previously, current allocation for this is $2 billion. However, the agencies have submitted well over 100 proposals for budget considerations that have exceeded $2 billion for IT modernization. So I see the government budget this year really increasing. And first of all, I see a real budget getting passed this year. I would be shocked if it doesn't. These continuing resolutions are inefficient, and I'm just disappointed at our elected leaders that they've been allowed to last this long. But we need efficiency in government, and that means buckling down, getting over your political divide, and passing an actual budget. It is what it is. I said what I said, and we're going to move on from that topic. We are seeing on the contractor side, this is from an insurance perspective, some companies who are self-insured are taking a stance on, I'm bringing up COVID because COVID is the current hot topic, taking the stance of enforcing, basically slapping penalties on their unvaccinated workforce. Now, as far as contractors are concerned, there's currently an executive order, and each state is issuing different orders concerning the COVID vaccine and your workforce. I would suggest having a conversation with your project and program managers, and then having a conversation with your contracting officers, laying out a definite plan with how you're going to deal with that. If you have a workforce, individuals who do not want to get vaccinated, how do you intend to lead through that? This is going to be a time for leaders. I'm getting ready to state an opinion at this point. We need more leaders to step up and lead us through this. Not what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of the extreme voices dominating the conversation. We need the leaders to start dominating the conversation. And how you lead your organization is right for your organization. Period. I said what I said, and I'll die on that hill. It is right for your organization if that is how you decide to lead it. I'll die on that hill every day. And we're going to leave it at that. Because I really think this conversation has I really think, and I'm stating my opinion at this point because I'm getting tired of this conversation. How can you be an effective contractor in the government? How can you be an effective power partner as a subcontractor, a prime, a consultant, providing corollary services? How you choose to operate in this space, in the arena. If we cannot have simple discourse, simple conversations around an injection, around illness, around what is going on currently in the arena. If you cannot have a conversation, you cannot effectively lead. And conversations do not include name calling. It does not include insulting intelligence. Just because you respond a certain way doesn't mean everybody has to respond the way you respond. Now, there's a certain segment of the population that don't believe water is wet, and we all understand that. We're not talking about them. There's a certain segment of the population who has never believed in and will never believe in. We're not talking about them. We're talking about people that's smack dab in the middle. We need increased leadership in industry, in our neighborhoods, in our school meetings. The extremists on both sides of the conversations are too loud. We need to dial it back. We need to rail it in. And we need to calm it all down. Yes, this has become political, and it never should have been. And I actually think I'm going to do a whole separate masterclass around the politicizing of the healthcare issue. I don't think it ever should have been a political issue. It should have stayed in the healthcare arena. I think politics and politicians should have stayed out of it. I think we would have had a better response had it stayed that way. But as soon as it became political, it became suspect. As soon as the conversation started getting shut down because we didn't like what somebody had to say, it became suspect. And then your moderates started to have doubts. And when moderates doubt is when you stop seeing cooperation. They stopped getting that 70, 80, whatever percentage they were trying to go for because that number kept changing too. That's when people started pumping brakes and stopped participating. And until they see that, and we're going to continue to have this conversation because now it's getting into a battle of will. You're not going to force me to do this. And it never should have gotten to that point. Never. Woo, let me get off my soapbox. But I just had to speak on that from a leadership standpoint. There's industry, wherever you fall on the spectrum. I'm not here to say one side is right and one side is wrong. It's not my business. But as a leader within your organization, you have to come up with a leadership plan of how you're going to address this situation and how you're going to lead your organization through to the next crisis. We have a whole humanitarian issue going on in Afghanistan, and I think some of that is being politicized. And we just really need leaders to step up. The extremists are too loud on every side, and when fear runs rampant, critical thinking goes out the window, and well-intentioned actions end up causing more harm than good. That's my take on that. And that's my take on anything, whether it's government contract, creating a strategy. You can't do it unless you step up and stand fully and wholly in your leadership in your organization. Because guess what? There's going to be the next event. According to that conversation around cybersecurity, there has been an uptick. We've been focused on Corona, but there's been a significant uptick in cyber attacks. And the cyber attacks have been occurring on small business end. They've been worming into the systems and then going laterally into government systems, into the larger business systems, and doing industrial espionage, stealing intellectual property, things of that nature. But people can't see that, and people aren't witnessing that because there's this hyper energy that's disrupting critical thinking. And when you're a business operator and a business owner and you have a workforce, I don't care if you have a team of one or a team of 100 or a team of 1,000, you must ensure that you are always operating in a place of emotional maturity, because your decisions and your choices affect a great deal of people. And the thing about the cyber attacks, they're coming from various places. There are companies that are set up that are being hired by other companies to cyber attack other small businesses. There's a new thing of cloning small businesses. I'm gonna clone your business and set it up and cause enough confusion until your clients think my business is your business. So where you were successful and started falling off, and you can't figure out why, that's why. So that's what I'm saying. Cybersecurity and cyber threats are looking different now. So before, businesses really didn't pay attention to, especially small businesses. They didn't pay attention to it because when you think cybersecurity, you're thinking, country upon country attacks. You're thinking the guy in the trench coat with the big hat and the sunglasses. We have that image that come to mind. And no, there are people that are literally stealing whole people's businesses out from under them by hiring the hackers to basically clone your business and steal your business. Which is why there's this uptick. If you notice, there's an upticking of trademarking and copywriting going on now. Those conversations. That's part of the reason why, but nobody is telling you why they're talking about it more. There's just this whole appearance. But I've been following this business coach, quite frankly, for the last 10 years, and she was talking about it 5 years ago. Whereas everybody else, I follow several coaches. And what I noticed is this particular coach, I follow a variety of coaches, and one person in my audience is going to get where I'm going. I notice with these ladies, they'll say something and they'll be talking about something and they're really forward thinkers. 5 years later, there's this other guru that's very popular in a certain group in industry. He'll start saying the same thing, and his followers think it's manna from heaven. But quite frankly, it's been out for 5 years before he started saying it. And what I've noticed is they were talking about this 5 years ago. I was seeing the trends on this 5 years ago. And that's a failure of mine that I didn't step my platform up a little more and speak on it then, which is why I finally decided to take action, because I hired one of those other coaches and I'm taking action now, and I'm up-leveling my conversations, because everybody wants to talk about getting the contract, but nobody wants to have the other conversations that need to be held in government contracting. And that's forming the strategic plans. There's the proper rate developments. That's, everybody talks about low-hanging fruit, but nobody tells you how to make low-hanging fruit successful. It isn't just going out there getting a whole bunch of $5,000 contracts. No, that's not what low-hanging fruit really is about. And then you still have to develop a whole lot of relationships to even make low-hanging fruit prosperous. There's a whole behind the scenes of capture and development that goes on, that if you don't do it perfectly, I don't want to say perfectly, scratch that, back up. If you don't do it well, you're going to mess up and potentially damage the reputation of your company. And I'm going to tell you, in government contracting, once you damage your reputation, it takes a while to get it back. I'm not saying you can't, but it takes a while to get it back. So that's what the Chatter Project came about. We're going to uplevel this conversation a whole lot. I've opened up 20 coaching spots. We can do 90-minute sessions where we can sit down and craft out the beginning of your plan for contracting success. I have a 2-day training before the RFP, 2-day training coming out. So keep an eye out, but my calendar's in the link. Hop on in there, get on my calendar, 90-minute. We're going to go hard for 90 minutes. You show up for yourself, I'll show up with you. I'll be the catalyst for your change, and we can get this thing done. Because I have a goal, and if you want to be a part of my goal, I'm ready to work with you. And with that, I'm going to close with join me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. because we're going to get this party started right as we close out the week. I'm going to look up some more things because there's the budgets that are in the Ways and Means Committee. I will see what's going on there and bring you some budget news. Look at what's going on with the Armed Services Committee because there's some things going on over there as well. I think our contractors need to be aware of. Well, no matter what industry or what area of contracting you're working in, you're going to see a lot more collaboration. So I would suggest that you keep your eye open to work in non-traditional agencies. And we're going to leave it there. So join me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for another installment of the Chatter Project. I'm Luciana Turner. Have an amazing day. I keep forgetting my camera's on.